Hi, so glad that you're here to talk a little bit about defining culture and sort of navigating culture inside of this pandemic. My really good friend and sister, Dr. Izabel Olson, I always have to throw in the doctor with her, but she is going to talk to us about she's a trauma specialist. I'm going to actually let her tell you a little bit about herself when she joins us. But we're going to talk about this collective trauma that is the pandemic, the message that comes along with the pandemic, if you will, and also what are some solutions, because if you know her, if you don't know her yet, you'll know inside of 6 seconds that she is a solutions provider. She wants to see people get well and be equipped. So I'm going to add her, but I'm so glad you're here, and we're going to talk with Dr. Izabel Olson. Let me grab her. Okay, we're waiting. Oh, good.
Hey, Brooke. I need to get taller here.
Look at
I like that you're representing.
I am. This is the Salt and Light Coalition. I bleed yellow for this organization. I have the privilege of being on their board of advisors and whatnot. So I love your work. Tell us a little bit really quickly. Give us like a 1 minute. This is who I am. This is what I do in the world. And then we'll talk about the collective. We'll talk about what's going on.
I am Dr. Izabel Olson, and I am the CEO and founder of Salt and Light Coalition. We provide job training for women that are survivors of trafficking here in Chicago. Basically, what we do is that we provide a 1 year long training to these women. We start with healing first because we believe that success cannot be achieved without healing. And so we actually spend 6 months with them doing things like reflections daily, reflections about their past, about their trauma. We use a lot of the word to kind of resolve. So we kind of mash this really cool thing where you kind of bring together psychology and faith to kind of rewrite women's narratives. We then use a lot of holy yoga. We're really into holy yoga here. And obviously the women love it. We also use fitness and nutrition as kind of pathways to rebuild the whole individual, the holistic individual. And then we start a job training for about 6 months where women learn things like soft skills for the workplace. Hi, Midori. She said hi, sorry. I've never done an Instagram live before. So this is my first. I'm doing a lot of firsts now with this pandemic, by the way. Sorry, going back, I'm getting it. So anyway, so we actually teach them how to become yoga teachers, and our focus is actually not necessarily for them to teach yoga, but rather for them to regain their speech. A lot of the women that are trafficked are actually told not to speak. So through yoga teacher training, they regain their speech. You know, I've seen women going from like not talking to talking, and they never go actually teach a yoga class, but he helps them just speak, be assertive, tell the world what they want. And then, you know, they rebuild themselves, their identity. Like, who are you in the eyes of Christ? You know, who are you meant to be? What are your strengths? Let's build this woman. Let's see, how does that woman dress? How does that woman make up? And then we teach them how to dress, how to, you know, put makeup on. We teach them how to write resumes. And then at the end of everything, after the 6 months, we actually place them in jobs. So that's kind of like what we do.
That's kind of like what we do. I mean, just like on the side, like this is kind of what we do. Well, I'm gonna tell one of my favorite stories about you, but I think your internet connection could be a little better. So as I'm talking, maybe you could check your connection because you're a little.
I'll turn off my Wi-Fi and see if that works.
Okay, cool. So one of my favorite things about Izabel is you could hear it at the end. Like, she's not content to just show you what the challenge is. She's committed to making sure that you can navigate the challenge and be ready for whatever God has for you. And so because she's a trauma specialist, because she's got that DR in front of her name, I thought who better to talk to about this collective trauma that's happening. And so I had asked her just to start our conversation here is can you define collective trauma? Because you sent it in a text. I'm sure it rolled off your thumbs like nothing, but it was kind of revolutionary for me. So can you define collective trauma?
So collective trauma is a traumatic event that is experienced by many people at the same time. So right now, with the pandemic going on in the world, we're all kind of experiencing the same things. We're all asked to stay home. We know people that maybe are dying or that may be in the hospital. We're all experiencing fear. We're all experiencing maybe some anxiety and even maybe a little bit of mild depression. It's something that everybody can share. It doesn't matter if you're rich, if you're poor, if you're white, if you're black. Everyone today is experiencing that across the border. And that is exactly what a collective trauma is. It's something that will affect everyone at the same time.
So that's so interesting. So it's the impact is the same, but
yes.
The way that we receive, the way that we interact with the collective, with the common thing, will be different.
For sure. So it's very easy to assume, maybe because I am here and I'm like, oh, this is fine. I have some extra time. I can relax all day. I'm going to Netflix and chill. But maybe, my friend who is next door is freaking out. He has sealed all his windows. He now has filters on his air conditioning. And he is having a panic attack every 5 seconds. So people will receive trauma differently. They'll process it very differently. And it's very, very important to be checking in on those people you love, because maybe the person that you think is the strongest, that person who's out there talking to everyone, who's always happy, that person might actually be taking it the hardest. And so it's really, really important at this time of collective trauma to just call everybody. Like, I've been calling people that I haven't called in a while and be like, hey, how are you? Because you're very outgoing and you love to be out in the street and, how are you doing? It's really important to just check in with people, see how they're feeling, because the person that you believe is the strongest might be the hardest hit today.
Yeah, that's right. So, okay. So, John Eldridge calls them the message of the arrows. So he says that trauma hits you like an arrow. He defines sin as missing the mark. So everyone's sinning, everyone's kind of going around in their own thing, all pulling, arrows, and they're flying and they're hitting, and they're very rarely hitting the mark. They're mostly missing, and they all carry a message. And so if we've got this collective trauma, so this big, huge arrow aimed at the entire earth, right? And it hits us, what do you think the central message is? Like, what do you think, like, we're all feeling, we're all sensing this message? Like,
okay. I think that my Brene Brown explains it best. I'm going to use a quote from her book, Braving the Wilderness. Yeah. I'm sure you've read it. Yeah. But she says this: an experience of collective pain does not deliver us from grief or sadness. It is a ministry of presence. And I think this word that she uses here, ministry of presence, is key. Yeah. These moments remind us that we're not alone in our darkness, and that our broken heart is connected to every heart that has known pain since the beginning of time. And so we were talking before how people experience this differently, but in a way, it kind of unites us, and it collectively makes us wonder, like, wait, what am I taking for granted? And I think that's the main message that we should be taking. One, like, what am I taking for granted? So for example, I've been doing things this pandemic that I never do. One of the things that I've been doing is calling people. Like, you know me, I hate speaking on the phone. I run away like the plague. I don't want to speak on the phone to you. Just text me. What are you doing calling me? And this morning I just spent 20 minutes speaking on the phone. And I think that I'm noticing that I'm taking for granted is human connection. Like, I really need human connection in my life. So I think it's a time of presence, of seeing, like, what are you taking for granted? What do you need to, go back to your roots? Like family time. I feel like I'm a workaholic. I think we are workaholics, me and you, sister, and I forget that I have a daughter sometimes, and it's made me wait, this is important too. And my family is important too. So I think that's one of the messages. I think the other message that I saw that is not so much that's not really related to collective trauma is like the power of one. I think if the conditions are right, what one person can accomplish is quite astonishing. And, you know, we have this one person in some random city in China among 1.4 billion people, somebody who've never heard, got this virus and started spreading it. And now you are being affected by it. I am, everyone, right? We're all in lockdown. It's basically taking down the economy of the United States of America. It's taking down the stock market. It's changed how we live our lives. It's making Zoom have many more clients, right?
It's making me want to invest in Zoom.
Right? And Peloton. And so it's basically the power of one person. You know, yeah. So if the conditions are right, don't underestimate your power right now to produce kindness, you know, to produce joy, to lift someone up, even if you can just, you know, call them, or if you can send them an email, you know, that could change someone's life right now. Yeah. You know, deliver groceries for somebody who is hungry, maybe that they can't go to the supermarket because they're immunocompromised. I mean, I think that those are two big messages, is the ministry of presence, like what are we missing, and your power, you know, the power that we can just use for good.
The ministry of presence, Brene Brown bringing it again.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I'm telling you, love that. I'm writing it down because I'm going to write on it later, I think. Yeah. Thank you for that. And then, okay, so tell me then, well, I mean, we've identified the two main messages, right? And so how do we combat those two messages? Tell me what.
How do we what? Sorry.
What are some of the solutions? Because girl doesn't leave me ever without a solution of how to be much better than I am. And I'm always inspired when I leave.
I think that right now, I don't know about you, but a lot of people are getting lost in this time warp, and they're falling into anxiety and depression. And we just need to, you know, make a mindful effort to create structure in our lives, because you cannot control what's going on. We don't know what's happening. And then we're turning on the TV and the messages we're getting are terrible. 100,000 deaths are coming to the US. And you're like, when is it gonna, you know, be on my front door? And you're freaking out. If you just stay in that, you are going to suffer. You're going to suffer more than you have to, you know? And so I think that creating a structure to get you out of that time warp, out of that anxiety and depression is very important. And I don't care what the structure is. It could be, you know, wake up and make coffee. From 12 to 1, I'm going to Netflix. From 1 to 2, I'm going to call somebody. But make something for you that is just reoccurring, that you can expect. Because there's just too much happening outside in the world, you know. We need some structure to get us out of this.
I think too, like one of the things for me that I'm seeing is like, number one, you said it earlier, it leveled the playing field. Like we're all the same experience. It doesn't matter where you are, where you came from, what you have. So, I do believe that. And I believe that this idea, when they were calling it social distancing, I was like, no, it's physical distancing. It was like, and then the who caught on to my brilliance over here.
It's true though. But you know what made my week this week?
What?
Was doing yoga with you on Monday.
Oh.
And I know, and I'm looking forward. I hope you're doing it next Monday, because I'm looking forward to that.
You're so
you know,
it's
something to look forward to. I haven't taken your class in a while, and it's an opportunity for me to do that. I think you should do it even when there is no pandemic.
Okay.
I think you should be doing it as a community builder, you know, because it was so awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I think it's really not only leveled the playing field, but in this physical distancing, it's really about what are we sourcing to? Who are we, and what do we believe, not just about ourselves, but what do we believe about the divine? I don't care what you call it, whatever your process is, right? But it is this awakening. This is a revival. This is a real opportunity. I know those in our faith walk are like, this is opportunity. Like we get to seed creativity and creation and new creation and join with what God is doing. And so with respect to the physical and social distancing, I was like, no, we're more social than we've ever been. Like, I don't know how many times people have ever seen my dog, but it's been 100 times in the last 3 days. So I'm more available to the social platform
For sure.
and by the way we chose it. Ever
Yeah.
since we were able to have these devices in our hands, we forewent the intimacy at, you know, in bed with your spouse, you're on your phone. I mean, like, we forewent that a long time ago. So now that we have it, what we have to do in terms of where we are in the culture is, to your point, balance what's coming in. We have got to be socially responsible. I mean, if you are fully inundated in Fox News and that's all you're bringing socially, please stay home. Like, just turn your phone off, right? And conversely, if you're all, you know, seeing, you know, whatever you are, but like, if that's all that it is, like, you got to get out of that rut. You got to be responsible for what you're allowing in, because we already have the collective trauma. So whatever narrative you're letting in is exasperating that. It's going to get you into the fear, or it's going to get you into the faith.
Right. I love what you said too about the spiritual piece. And I think that I spoke that, like, at Soul Light, we use, you know, kind of the psychology and the faith together. And I do believe that faith has the power to shift narratives and rewrite them. And this is something that you can be doing every day now, you know, when you ground yourself with your faith and you really believe that you can be still and know, you know, like, because I think people say, oh, be still and know, be still and know. But like, when you really are grounded in that and you sit in that, like, that power, like, I am going to be still and I just know that you are God and you're going to show up and it's going to be okay. It just helps you rewrite what's going on now. Like, instead of this being a time of panic, of anxiety, of depression, this can be a time of grounding and a time of, like what you said, revival. And, like, you know, like, reawakening your spirit. And I think that's
watering
really,
our own land, you know, like, watering and tending to our own land. I mean, look what this has done. It's put the focus back on God, back on ourselves, and not in a bad way, because we are so focused on ourselves out there, but in a good way of, like, looking at ourselves and then looking at our core relationships. I mean, it's so the gospel. I mean, right?
Yeah.
There's so much opportunity in that. But, well, I could talk to you for 100 years. Excited, and I'm really loving the fact that you're calling me back and that I'm seeing your face. So I got to tell you that. And what I'd love to do is maybe do next week. Let's do some more of this, because people seem to be really loving this. I mean, Tabby just said,
Can I add something for your last question, though? Because we also talked about, you know, adding structure. And we also need to remember the power of one, like, what you can do now to be kind to people, to love people, to, you know, to be socially connected to people, like you said. That's your power right now. People are in need of that. It's the right time to connect.
Yeah. Amen.
And I think we need to kind of, like, use that. Yes.
Well, as always, you're the best. Thank you. Thank you guys for joining me and joining us, and we'll be back. Right, Izabel?
Yes, we will.
All right. Love you. Bye, girl.
Bye.
Thank you.